want to welcome all of you, both honored guests. Well, I guess the media is an honored guest today, too. It's a press conference, isn't it? And we appreciate everybody being here to start the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame induction celebration with our press conference. We will follow this evening at 5 with a kickoff reception right downstairs at the landing. Everybody's invited to enjoy the hospitality that's being put on by the landing and supported by LogCap Federal Credit Union. And we'll hear from Karen Vines and Marianne Nunley from LogCap, who've been great friends of the Hall of Fame for many, many years now. This is a special year for the Hall of Fame because of the museum opening tomorrow. Media, if you do not have your credentials yet, you shouldn't. You'll pick those up tomorrow beginning at 4 o'clock in the Visitor Center down at the other end of the street. The Natchitoches Visitor Center, right at the other end of the street, right around the corner from the museum. Very easy to find it. Some folks you know will be staffing it. And parking for the media is down on the riverbank on that end. That's where you'll end the riverbank. If you got a TV truck, it'll be up behind the museum. And if you have any questions about that situation, visit with me, Kent Lowe, after the press conference, Matt Fowler, and we'll get you squared away on that. But what we'll do here today, once we get into introducing our inductees, we'll have a little reaction from them about this honor and about their careers, and then we'll just do some question and answer. And we'll take some time. Saturday night, they've got 3 minutes, but today they've got a little longer if they choose. Now, Ronald, Ardoin, he's never gone 3 minutes. I mean, if it's over 2 minutes, he's a little nervous. So don't know if he'll go 3 minutes, but we'll have some fun today. Don't hesitate to ask anything at any point in time. And here we go. I want to welcome first our sponsors for this event for the last 7 years. They were the first on board. They recognized what this could be, and what went on at the other end of the hall is a great result of the support that we've gotten from LogCap Federal Credit Union. And here to represent LogCap, Karen Vines and Marianne Nunley, two people who are rooted in this community. Karen now is in Baton Rouge as a vice president, and Marianne is still the regional vice president for LogCap, and we really, truly appreciate what you've meant to the Hall of Fame through the years. Ladies?
Sorry, I have a little trouble seeing, but good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of LogCap and our 54,000 members in the state of Louisiana and throughout the United States, welcome to the 2013 Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. We're proud to be a partner of this event for the past 7 years and are especially honored this year with the opening of the museum. The core of our mission at LogCap is education, and what better way to mentor our youth than through sports. It's great to be a part of something that brings so much to this community and to this state. And on behalf of LogCap, congratulations to this year's inductees. Thank you.
I just want to say we love that the press is here. We love that they're in Natchitoches. Enjoy. And all of y'all, while you're here, make sure you buy stuff in the shops.
Thanks, ladies. You can tell Mary Ann's on the Tourist Commission, can't you? By the way, if you don't know, I'm Doug Ireland. I'm the chairman of the Hall of Fame, and somewhere in the room behind the lights is somebody we also need to bring up here, and she is Lisa Babin. She is the president and CEO of the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Foundation. The weekend goes in a very hectic fashion. There's a lot of planning that goes on. The foundation is the business arm that makes it go, that puts the fuel in the tank, and it goes far beyond that. Lisa puts so much energy into the Hall of Fame throughout the year. She represented us for 2 weeks down in New Orleans around Super Bowl week. Just to give you one slice of an example of how she's promoting the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and what's being built at what has been built at the other end of the street certainly was completed very significantly with Lisa Babin's help. Lisa Babin.
Thank you. Well, this is a very, very exciting weekend, and for those of you who managed to be inducted in the 2013 class, you must be living right, because no doubt this is a very, very special year to be coming into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Every year, I think the class just can't get any better than this class, and every year it's another great class, and I think that is a reflection of the caliber of athletes, coaches, and sports administrators that we have in Louisiana, and why the state of Louisiana has chosen to invest over $22 million in the museum that you will be seeing this weekend. So the goal of this weekend is to honor those that have been inducted, to elevate the legacy of what Louisiana sports means to this this state. I mean, they go hand in hand. I don't know that there's anyone in the state who isn't affected by sports in some way. If you're not an athlete yourself, you probably have a child or a brother or a sister, but we're all engaged in some way in sports. It makes life better. It teaches us life lessons. Although I never went on to be someone of the caliber of the inductees, I learned so many life lessons, and I think we all can take the museum that we've been blessed with and use it as a platform to influence youth in positive ways and to inspire them to be their best, whether that's to become a world-class athlete or to go on to use those skills to be great business leaders. But is an extremely exciting time. None of what's happening this weekend or the museum would have been possible without many, many people. And as you see me running around like a chicken with my head cut off, it's because I will be running around thanking literally dozens of people who have volunteered in both large ways and small to make this weekend possible. To the inductees, if something isn't quite the way it should be, please know that we intend it to be the very best it can be, but we're human and sometimes we fall a little short. Caused Ervin a little grief when he got off the airplane, and I want to tell you he was such a gentleman with a deficit on our part, and I love that attitude, and I promise you we want your weekend to be memorable. Natchitoches wants your weekend to be memorable. They recognize how fortunate they are to have the Sports Hall of Fame and the museum in Natchitoches. As I'm speaking around the state, the first question I always get, does anyone have any questions? Why is the museum in Natchitoches? It is because no community could work together better than this community does. They take this weekend, they own it, they appreciate it, they do the very best they can to roll out the red carpet. So inductees, enjoy your time here. You are royalty for the next 3 days, so soak it up, enjoy it. If myself or Doug or anyone in the community can make your stay better, please let us know, because that's what this weekend is all about. Thanks to each of you.
Not going to have him come up and speak because he wouldn't want to, but I do want to recognize the gentleman in the back sitting next to Kevin Mawae, flanked by the Mawae family. He was the mayor of Natchitoches for 12 years, and he was a driving force behind the museum. Wayne McCullen is on the foundation board of directors. Wayne, really appreciate what you've done. Lisa, you know, her work is never finished, nor is her speech.
Sorry about that. I would not be standing here because I would be in a puddle as a middle-aged woman with not enough sleep if it were not for my outstanding intern. And I'd like Wade Williams to walk to the front of the room. This is the finest young man I have worked with in my 3 years at the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. He is a professional, he is hardworking, he is honest, and I am proud to have him on our team. Wade, thank you for everything that you have done.
He also is an all-conference defensive end for the Demons. Just graduated, got his master's degree while he was here. He's highly employable. His wife would want me to say that. Another gentleman has had great influence as his role has taken a different turn in the last couple of years as a state representative is our freshman representative who was a college athlete himself for a bit as a football player. And from Coshada, we are honored to have here Representative Kenny Cox.
Thank you, Doug. Hey, look, it's a great honor, and no better place to have the Sports Hall of Fame than to be right here in Natchitoches, the oldest city in the Louisiana Purchase. This is a great place to be, and we want people to realize that not only we're one of the city of lights, but we have a lot of things to bring to the table. And this is only just to add to the things that will come for Natchitoches. This is a great place to be, great place to be from. And I served all over the world in the military, and when I just long to get back to home, and this is what we call home. And to the inductees, welcome. Thank you for all you've done. It's a great honor to recognize you guys. And from me, my hat's off. And to Doug, a lot of people talk about a lot of folks, but Doug's been driving this thing from the beginning to the end. And even when I call now, I'm still calling Doug, and eventually I'll wean you off, Doug, but I haven't. Thank you. Thank y'all for coming. And don't forget, invite others to come back. This is going to be a marvel for folks to look at and see. We even have fishing in there, right? Now that one, see, they even got a spot for me. So y'all have a blessed day. Thank you.
One more gentleman I just want to point out, another fellow who represented our state, our area for the state for 4 years. He's now the parish president in Natchitoches. Rick Nallen, thank you for what you've meant for the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. All right, we've got the crew all here, the 5 inductees who are here with us today. And as I said, we'll go through a pretty simple process in terms of questions and answers for each, and have some fun and get a lot of good information gathered for you members of the media. Let's start with the guy who's nearest to Natchitoches when he wakes up in the morning and he's at home. He is near to Natchitoches, and that's appropriate because he was never far away. He spent pretty much his entire career rooted in Louisiana. And he had many chances to go elsewhere, but this was home, and this is where he wanted to be. Won over 90% of his mounts, 90% of his wins were in Louisiana. And when you talk about wins, there are only 23 jockeys in the history of thoroughbred racing with over 5,000 career wins, and we have one with us today. 2013 Louisiana Sports Hall of Famer, Ronald Ardoin. Ronald, come on up. Now, I got to tell you, I wanted to introduce you first, so I didn't feel short as this went on further. But, Ronald, if you just kind of react to this honor and tell us what it means to you and reflect on your career a little bit, and then we'll just start some Q&A.
Thank y'all. Doug, thank you. It's been just a great honor to be here to be inducted to the Hall of Fame. It's something I dreamed about and never thought would happen, and here I am, and it's a great honor.
When you were growing up, just riding horses for fun, did you think you could make a living at it? How did that work? How did you become a professional jockey?
Well, I started riding horses when I was about 8 years old in the bush tracks of Louisiana, which we had a bunch of them, and it was all for fun. And when I was 16 years old, I got my jockey's license and started riding at Delta Downs, and it went from there. I've rode in probably every state in Louisiana, every state in the country that has a racetrack, and had a lot of success out of the state, but like Doug said, most of my success came here at Louisiana. I was lead rider 6 times at Louisiana Downs and 6 times at Fairgrounds. 90% of my wins did come here in Louisiana, and I'm a Louisiana boy, true colors all the way through. And it was a great honor just to represent my state wherever I went, and being in the state to win the races I did.
Are there some races that just jump out at you? I mean, you ride so many day by day. Can you remember the particular races, or is it more a time in your career?
Well, Doug, I've averaged probably 200, 250 races a year, but some of the bigger races like the New Orleans Handicap, which I win a couple times. I hold the record down in New Orleans for the number of stake winners in a single meet, and same thing here at Louisiana Downs. I guess some of probably the better horses that ever ran in the state, I had an opportunity to ride them, and Zarb's Magic's one of them. Scott Scoundrel, they're probably second and third on the list of amount of money they won in the state of Louisiana, and I got to be a part of their careers, and all the people that from the state of Louisiana that I got to ride for, that I still look up to and still do business with now as a jockey agent. So it's a big pleasure, like I say, to be from Louisiana and dealing with Louisiana people.
And so talk about what you do now as a jockey.
I'm a jockey's agent now. For the last 6 years, I represent 2 riders at Louisiana Downs right now, Don Symington and Chris Rozier. So it's something that I still get to be around all the horse people that I love, and be around the horses, and it's a fun job.
What about the horse racing industry as it is today, as opposed to what it was 20 years ago? Good things and things that you think could be better?
Well, the horse industry has seen its up and downs in the state of Louisiana, but they have a good breeding program, and they breed a lot of good horses that go on other states and do well. The money now is from 20 years ago. It's just 100% better. The horses have gotten better because we get influx of breeding from Kentucky, that we have stallions stand here in Louisiana that help our industry and help our program. So for the better of the state, it's gotten better.
So the money's 100% better. You're still fairly young.
Well, I'm about 65 pounds heavier than I used to be, so the idea of I have a couple of my friends, like Mark Guidry had retired, he was inducted last year, and several of them come back after being retired, but I have no desire to come back and lose 65 pounds to get back to riding. I had my fill of it. Almost 30,000 mounts, over 5,000 wins. I had my share.
It's not easy work, though. I mean, people talk about a typical day that you went through.
Oh, a typical day usually starts at between 5 and 5:30. Get on average maybe 10 horses a morning. Come back that afternoon and ride 10 horses, 10 races in the afternoon, and that's 5 days a week. So that's a lot of miles. And but it was a lot of fun. Like I say, I wouldn't trade my career that I had. I was blessed, and I got paid to do something I love to do, ride horses.
And you're a Cajun from Karen Crow, and you're rooted now in Bossier City. Talk about the North and South Louisiana and your love for the states.
Well, the love of the state. I been living in Hodson, actually, outside of Bossier for the last 32 years, and I still got a lot of family down south and visit a lot. But I tell everybody I'm a redneck coon ass now.
All right, any other questions for Ronald? I know you got some.
Greatest thoroughbred you ever rode?
Greatest thoroughbred I ever rode was probably a horse named Oncolor. I rode him in the Kentucky Derby. Another one was Zarv's Magic. Rode both of them in the Kentucky Derby. So they probably top horses I've rode.
You ran at the fairgrounds as well, didn't you?
Yes, they did, both of them.
Ronald, thank you. You being from Karen Crow, the Acadian area, a lot of jockeys, successful jockeys have come out of that region, many. How much did that play a part in you? It's such a culture in Acadiana, riding horses growing up. Just kind of play off that, if you would, a little bit.
Well, I always, joked about it. I said a bunch of us were just too little to go to the all field, and that was too hard of work. And so we got with the horses, and that carried us a long way. So many of us, started in the bush tracks at 8 years old, 9 years old, some of us 7 years old. Like I said, started real young. I mean, Eddie Delahousie, I can just go on down the list, Randy Romero, Mark Guidry. There's so many of us got started down in South Louisiana. And, we all started at, it was just something for us that we loved, riding races, match races. And a lot of us got lucky and made a career out of it.
How old were you when you ran your first professional race?
I was 16 years old.
Ronald, for us casual racing fans like myself that don't know the first thing about it, like I like watching the last leg of the race. Describe, I guess, the thrill. Like you're running neck and neck with a horse down the stretch, the thrill of the crowd going crazy. You got a chance to win. You're looking through side by side, and you got a chance to win this race. And I mean, it's kind of a rush, I'd imagine.
Well, it definitely is, and I've always said, people has asked me, the difference between riding, a $5,000 claimer or riding in $1 million race, what's the better feeling? And I always said it didn't make me any difference, the thrill of victory, when you cross that wire, it's like, got him again, and it's just something that when you lose that desire, you better find another profession because it's all about winning.
So win was a win regardless.
It was a winner regardless. Yeah, it was just the thrill.
What are the jockeys' relationships with each other?
Well, actually, you would think that being athletes, you've got football players, they're in each side of the football field in different locker rooms. We're all together in one room, and the tempers do fly. But we all have a bond. We know what we're there for. We're a lot of camaraderie in the jocks room, but when we get in the starting gates, I always said everybody's face goes blank because I'm out there for one thing, to do a job, was to ride a race for the guy that hired me to ride, and whatever it took to win. There was no friends once that gate opened.
What was the most interesting story out of your career that you can remember? Something that happened that may be unusual, fascinating?
There were so many different things, that happened.
Most bizarre.
Most bizarre?
Yeah.
Well, I could start with one, riding at the fairgrounds on a Friday night, and a horse broke his leg with me and fell, and I've got plenty of scars to prove it, and it looked like a helicopter. The reason I say that, when we ride in the mud, we ride with long white pants, and you can't see our boots and everything. And I have a film of it, and I come off this horse. I was laying third, going into the turn, and I broke his leg. It's something that happens. And when I came off of him, I was flying in the air, and I looked like just a propeller flying. You could just see the white pants going in circles, and I'll never forget that. It was a strange thing to watch.
Ron, how much, you're having a lot of success with Don Symington as an agent. How much of being a jockey turned agent helps, and how much did you learn from the good people you had working with you when you were riding?
Well, I tell you, I had a business agent named Jerry Harrison who's no longer with us. We was together about 25 years. And you know, we would move different racetracks from Shreveport to the fairgrounds, and we lived together a lot. And I watched him and, you know, learned a lot from him. And I've always, as I told him before he passed away several years ago, I said, if I would know what I know now, I would have gave you 50% of the check instead of 30, because it's a lot goes into it. I mean, the phone never stops ringing, and you're dealing with trainers 24/7. They'll call you at any time. And when I was riding, it was a lot easier. You know, once I left the racetrack, my job was done. And now I realize that how hectic it is being a jock's agent. And it did help me, you know, with having Don Symington and Chris Rozier, who I represent now. I have an insight, you know, because I watch a lot of the races, and we confer daily on all the races that they ride. And I give them my opinion, and we talk about it, you know, for things down the road. And my connections with the people I rode have really helped, you know, the riders I represent. You know, they trust me, so they trust my riders.
I have one question. When you're riding, you got the goggles on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's muddy. How in the world do you see when you're behind, man? How do you get that? I used to always wonder, how does that jockey see?
Well, we start out, you know, if the track's really muddy, we'll have probably 6 pair of goggles on. And as we go along, we just pull them down over our neck. And I used to do this, I used to think this was funny when my daughter was growing up, and we'd be going down the road, me and my wife and my daughter, and it'd be raining, and I'd be going about 45 miles an hour, and I'd turn the windshield wipers off, and I said, now, this is what Daddy sees when he's on a horse going 45 miles. She said, say, Daddy, I can't see anything. I said, sometime I couldn't either, but you just went with instinct, you know? So, yeah, it was, it's makes the job a lot harder in the mud, I guarantee you.
We could go on and on, there's no question about it. Ronald Ardoin, everybody. Resist the temptation, and we'll get this with the photo at the end when we do the group photo of the inductees, but let's go from the short to the long of it. From 5'5" to 6'10", and from a guy who also grew up in Louisiana, but might have thought about playing in the NBA, but I don't think it really occurred to him in high school, and might not have occurred to him for quite a while in college, but 13 years in the NBA proves that he had the talent, he had the work ethic, and most of all, he had the faith and fortitude to make a dream for many kids come true in his life. And he's come to us with his family today from the Denver area, from Jonesville originally, Louisiana originally, and a product of the University of New Orleans, Ervin Johnson.
First of all, I'd like to just thank everyone for voting for me to be a part of the 2013 Louisiana Hall of Fame inductees, so I'm very grateful for that. First question, anyone?
Talk about how you became a college basketball player, let alone a pro basketball player, when you barely played high school basketball.
Well, the story goes like this. I told the story probably maybe 10,000 times or more, but graduated from Block High School in 1985, and I just wanted to work right after high school, so I took a job and worked for 3 years and working in the grocery store, and so happens a good friend of mine that I got to know in the grocery store, Paul Belonian. He's was visiting New Orleans at that time. I think Ron Maestri, our friend of Ron Maestri, and he came in the store and just said, Ervin, you know, you don't know The tallest guy they have was 6'4", and they need players. So I was, went down there the next day or so and asked Coach Floyd for opportunity, and he gave me the opportunity, and went on and had a great career at the University of New Orleans.
Did you have any idea that you were that good?
Not at all. I was terrible. I was not good. I played basketball out in the playground and in the park, but never organized basketball. I had a coach at Block High School, wanted me to come out and try out, but I refused to. My parents wanted me to go try out. It was just something that I didn't have that desire to play at that time. But when I made up in my mind that I wanted to do it, I did it, and good things happened after that.
So you got to UNO and found out you belonged. When was it that you got the idea that maybe I might be able to take this past college?
The NBA was never one of my main goals. When I stepped on the University of New Orleans campus, it was all about me trying to be the best player possible. And I had a great coach, Tim Floyd. I owe so much credit to him for making me the player that I became. He means a lot to me. And at the university, it was me just trying to be the best I could be. There was a lot of players better than me. I knew they was better than me, but I didn't think they could outwork me. Work ethics was everything to me, so I just worked as hard as possible and took one day at a time. I didn't look down the road, say the NBA or the $1 million that I possibly could make. It was all about me just taking one day at a time and trying to be the best player that I can possibly be. And believe it or not, Tim Floyd didn't think I was so good either. After the first month or so, he thought I should be, I should go to a junior college and where I can play and develop. But I remember that conversation to this day that I sit right across from him, just like I'm sitting across from him, and told him I wasn't going to do it. He wanted me to ask my parents. I said, I'm not going there and ask my parents about transferring. I'm not doing it. And I remember the tears in my eyes coming down, and Tim said, Ervin, I'm not going to say anything else to you about it. Just get in the gym and work. And from that day on, I just worked. And I didn't say much. I just continue to try I continue to try to work harder every day and try to improve, and I was able to improve year by year.
How many times did you just reflect and say, dang, I was in a supermarket at one time and then I went to the NBA? I mean, it's an amazing story, Ervin. Just do you sometimes just sit back and maybe now think about it?
I do reflect on it a lot.
Yeah.
And I try to share with my two daughters, which they probably don't understand, that how hard it was. And working in a grocery store, making $3.35 an hour, content, happy, A lot of people don't believe that, but I was happy, I was content, I was just working, taking care of myself, living in an apartment. My parents were nowhere around, so I had to support myself, and responsibility fell on me. But I was just, it was a hard struggle, but I just wanted more, and I just took one day at a time with it. And now, looking back more and more, I look at it, it's amazing. It is amazing, but the only thing I can say that God ordered my steps. I have to say He ordered my steps because I had no idea growing up in Jonesville, Louisiana, a young, skinny kid, very shy, and coming from the background I come from with my mother raising 5 kids. I was the oldest son. All the responsibility fell on myself, and had no idea that one day that I was going to be playing the NBA. I had no idea. I still can't believe it, but it happened. That's go to show you if you really have a desire to do something, and if you work at it and you stay focused and you keep God number one, good things can happen. But it wasn't easy either, but I'm just so glad I had my faith in other places, not in myself, because if I had faith in myself, I would have never made it. Even though I believed in myself, but I knew something was different about this, because everything fell in place from the time I said that I was going to go play basketball to Tim Floyd giving me a scholarship. Even though I didn't play high school basketball before, I was 6'11". Only thing I could do is run and jump. It was the last day of signing college players. you know, Tim thought it was Magic Johnson from LA. All of that story, all of that, you know, to giving me an opportunity and say yes, you know, that's amazing. And I can't credit nobody else but the man above for placing me in the right place, putting the right people in place for me to meet and talk to and to encourage me. So it's a blessing in the sky that it happened the way it happened.
Ervin, with everything that's happened to you and how you got to this point, what does this weekend enshrinement in this Hall of Fame mean to you?
It means a lot, but I can honestly say it was never one of my goals because I never thought I would ever make it this far as playing basketball. I didn't know how my college career was going to turn out. I didn't even know how my NBA career was going to turn out. But I think by me having so much faith and I trusted God so much in everything I did that, you know, maybe he saw the humbleness in me. Maybe he saw something to say this kid, you know, deserve a lot. I'm going to give him opportunity. And I never let my eyes go off of him, no matter how good things was going or how bad. So this weekend is a great honor for me and my family. I know my daughters is very excited about me. They've been asking to help write up my speech and all of that, you know. So, you know, it's very exciting. It's very exciting. I'm very humble about it. And I'm gonna try to just soak up everything throughout the weekend and enjoy this moment because you never know when the next time something like this could happen. I don't think I will ever make it to the real Hall of Fame of NBA Hall of Fame. So this is my Hall of Fame. This is my stage, and I'm gonna enjoy every moment of it this weekend.
How tall were you when you were a freshman in high school?
Freshman, I don't remember, but I can tell you I was 6'7" when I graduated from high school in 1985.
And your high school coach didn't ask
He wanted me to play basketball, but my frame of mind and what I wanted didn't coincide with his. He saw something in me and wanted me to, you know, to try out, but I just didn't want to do it. I try to let all the kids know that your parents could want something so bad for you, but if you don't want it for yourself, it's not going to happen. You'll never be able to reach your full potential. If somebody is constantly driving you and pushing you to do something, to drive and have to come from within. When I decided to do it, it was all me. It wasn't anything to do with my parents or family members. It was all me wanting to do it.
I was going to ask you what was your biggest memory in a game at UNO, but then I got to thinking, you never played high school ball. What was it like the first time you stepped on the court for a college ball game?
Nervous as you know what. I didn't know what to think. I didn't have no idea what was going on. But Tim Floyd was, he knew exactly what to say to me. You know, he knew how to get up under my skin. He knew everything. You know, he said, Ervin, just go play this. Whatever you do, the only thing I want you to do is rebound and block shots. And if you get it up underneath the basket, kick it out. He didn't want me to do anything else. And I ain't know any better. And I just did exactly what he told me to do. And everything worked out perfect, you know. But I was nervous. I was nervous my first game, but that's normal. I had no expectation of trying to get so many points or so many rebounds. I was just enjoying the moment of just playing. And that's what, to me, what it was all about, just getting out there playing and doing your best.
You talked about, you know, not playing in high school, the coach, what he had in mind wasn't what you wanted, and then you were approached you were approached 3 years later about it. What changed for you that made you want to do it? I mean, obviously, like you said, it was your choice. Was it something internal? Was it something combination of things? I mean, was it an intuition thing? What made you at that point say, okay, I'm going to give this a shot?
Only thing I remember is when I was working in that grocery store, I was stocking the shelves. And I went through this in my mind thousands and thousands of times. And I just heard this little still voice, Sir Ervin, go back and play basketball. And I looked around when nobody was around. And I knew it was from God. And the only thing I said was, God, if this is for you, allow it to happen. That's when Paul Bologna walked through the door a few hours later.
Wow.
And was telling me about UNO. And I didn't know what to do after that. I said, you know, I just drive down there after I get off of work. And I didn't even know where the University of New Orleans campus was at. But
Where was the, yeah, what was the stores?
A&P on College Drive. Yes, actually A&P on College Drive.
It's where all the recruiters go to find business.
Absolutely. You know, I heard that so many times, but I think it's within those 3 years, they changed to Super Fresh. But it was A&P grocery store. But, you know, by me, you know, when I heard that voice and Paul Bologna coming in there and, you know, telling me about UNO needing players, me talking to Tim Floyd, I knew it was a divine appointment. If it was up to me, I wanted to go to LSU. And honestly, I did. But I went and talked to Dale Brown before I went to UNO. He had these two big guys coming, Shaquille O'Neal and Stanley Roberts, and this skinny little kid here. He said, you know what, I don't have a place for you. I don't have a scholarship. I wish you the best. And I said, I appreciate it. And I think that motivated me even also. That didn't have anything negative towards Dale Brown. It was just a motivation thing. God knew exactly what I needed to push me, to drive me to be the best player possible. So, you know, I'm so glad I was in the right place at the right time and the right people was in my life at the right time.
And here you are with Shaq on Saturday night.
Yes, it's amazing, and I'm happy. I'm gonna be very grateful to see him again. I haven't seen him since I retired from the NBA 7 years ago. You know, we battled quite a bit on the NBA court. You know, he won 99.9% of them. You know, but it was fun playing against him because one thing about Shaq, he got a great spirit about him. He loved people, and he's a good guy. He's a really good guy. You know, you hear all these stories about NBA players. He's a genuine guy that I really like and admire a lot.
What game in the NBA that stands out the most in your mind for you?
It's so many different ones for different reasons. You know, maybe when I shot made a three against Minnesota. You know, normally I don't shoot threes. You know, but that night, for whatever reason in Seattle, I remember I scored 20-some points and how many rebounds, and I shot a three kind of when the game was almost over, and I made it. It was just my night. You know, I don't think I shot too many more or made too many more after that. But the NBA career for me was great. A lot of NBA scouts and people, executive, didn't think I was going to be playing no more than about 3 years in the NBA anyway. You know, so I surpassed all of that. You know, far as my career. But I have a lot of great moments in the NBA. A lot of bad ones too. I can't just take all the good. A lot of bad ones. But I was so motivated to be the best player possible. When someone always said anything I couldn't do, that make me even focus even harder to do it, to prove them wrong. You know, you're gonna always have people to doubt you and say you can't do this, you can't do that, or whatever. But I just trust so much in myself and believe in God giving me the strength and the ability to go out there and do it. It's great for me, and I love proving people wrong.
Ervin, obviously with the NBA draft, it's only 60, 65 guys that get drafted a year, and the odds of getting drafted are so low. Describe that day, the roller coaster of emotions. I mean, a lot of times we watch guys on TV on draft day expecting the name to be called, and they sit there and cross their fingers. When your name was finally called with the track that you had to go through to get there, describe how you felt.
That emotions, I couldn't do nothing but cry. Honestly, because what I went through, you bring a lot of emotions back. That feeling, but it's nothing bad. It's nothing bad. It was just a feeling of just working hard. The feeling of I made it. I wanted to make my mother, my father, and my family members proud. It was tough, but being the 23rd pick and just sitting there waiting, I didn't want to go to the NBA. I didn't want to be no part of that, you know, in the green room and waiting and your name not called, and there you go sitting and the cameras all in your face and everybody watching. And, you know, I remember I had an apartment right off of UNO campus. I just had my immediate family and good friends of mine and my agent. And I was sitting there. I never heard anything about Seattle. I didn't even know where Seattle was at. Never really been out of the state of Louisiana other than, traveling with UNO. And just sitting there for about an hour or so. And when my name called, it was this disbelief, shocking, excited, going a new chapter in my life, but it was a great experience, and I would never forget it, but I'm very grateful for it, and still don't believe that it happened, but it don't happen too often. But I try to tell kids, it's nothing wrong with having a dream. You got to have a dream, and if you have a dream, and if it's something that you desire to be or do in life, you can achieve whatever you want. Just work hard at it, but you got to have a plan B as well, because you can't put all your eggs in one basket. There's nothing wrong with dreaming. When I see a lot of kids, say I want to go to the NBA and that's their NFL, I don't try to discourage them. I try to encourage them to say, you know what, you can be whatever you want. It's not going to be easy. You're going to go through your ups and downs, but you just got to stay focused, and be ready for adversity in life or whatever it throws at you, and go from there. So I try to encourage the kids to just keep the dream alive, and whatever you want, you can be.
Speaking of kids, tell us what you're doing today.
What am I doing today? I'm trying to enjoy my two daughters and watch them grow up. Playing in the NBA, I travel a lot, and I owe a lot of credit to my wife, for, putting up with me for all those years in the NBA, that traveling and leaving all the responsibility on her to get the kids here and all of that stuff. NBA lifestyle is great, but it's a lot comes with it. But a lot of people don't see that, but I missed a lot of my kids' performance and different things like that. And now I just want to enjoy them, I'm one of the Denver Nuggets ambassadors that goes in the community and talk to different schools, go to different schools and talk to different kids, and I do a lot of events with their organization, with their players. Plus I have my own basketball club, EJ Hoops Basketball Club, which I have 72 girls in the program, teaching them about basketball. Being a boy, a young man like I am, and dealing with girls, two different things. It's tough. I have 72 girls, but it's fun to be around the girls and try to teach them about the game of basketball. I knew, when I retired, I wanted to be around kids. I knew that because I saw myself in many different ways. God has shown me so many times that I was going to be standing in front of kids, talking to kids and try to point them in the right direction. I just didn't know how it was going to transpire. And by me going to different schools, I go to probably 100 different schools in one school year, get in front of 10, 15,000 kids, talking to them about life, trying to encourage them about education and how important it to further education and doing the right thing and making good decisions. So I enjoy that because I had opportunities to coach high school and college, and I turned it down because I don't feel like that's what I need to be doing. I need to be in front of kids.
Ervin Johnson, everybody.
Thank you.
From a contemporary professional basketball star to a guy who was one of the best in the game in his day, and for the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, his day has finally come, and many people have asked, why was Jimmy Jones not in the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame already? And that just shows you how imperfect our nomination process is. He wasn't on the ballot. There's 27 different sports categories, and somehow, because he had gone off and played in Utah, and the ABA was no longer, and there were so many great players from Grambling, and most of them were football guys, he didn't show up on the ballot. As soon as he got on the ballot, he got elected. I mean, it was 1 year, boom, you're in. And that was kind of like playing defense against Jimmy Jones. Boom, that guy done scored on you. You better get back and try to stop him the next possession. He's come in from Las Vegas, brought his golf game with him. One of the greatest players in the history of the ABA and of Grambling State University from Tallulah, Louisiana, James Jimmy Jones.
Whoa. Growing up in Louisiana, I've been gone. Geez, how long have I been gone from Louisiana? It's been a long time. I guess when you get this age, you forget a lot of stuff, right? But that's not true. Too many young people forget stuff I ask them about. But anyway, this is a tremendous honor. And like Doug called me last summer, and you know, he said, "I don't know how we missed you." I said, "Well, you know, things happen, and I'm just glad you got it right." But this is a tremendous honor, and you know, growing up playing basketball, you never think about the Hall of Fame. You know, I've been a big fan of sports all my life, except horse racing. You know, and you know, you don't have but room for so many sports. And if they weren't scoring points, it's like I tell my friends from these different countries now, I don't like soccer. They don't score much. You know, you play the whole game and score 1 or 2 points. So it just wasn't me. But I'm a big sports fan. I played pro basketball for 10 years, and now I'm back to a sports fan. You know, big baseball fan, basketball, football, those 3 major sports. And, you know, I started watching NASCAR because one day I was flipping the TV, and I saw those guys changing the tires. And I said, that's enough for me to watch it right there. But I'm a big sports fan. And like I say, I've admired guys going into the Hall of Fame. I never thought about it, really, even though, I tell you, the only time I really thought about it when y'all put Slick Watts in the Hall of Fame. And I said, what was that, about 2 years ago? 2 years ago? Yeah, and I talked to him. He and I, you know, we're good buddies. You know, he talked about how I got him ready for the NBA. But, you know, that's the first time I thought about it. And,
college ball used to
no, he was in school when I was playing for New Orleans. He was at Xavier. And we used to play, you know, pickup games in the summer after the season was over. And it was real good. Aaron James was there. Bruce Steele, I don't know if you remember Bruce. But it's been a lot of great athletes from Louisiana. And like I said, growing up in Tallulah, anybody know what Tallulah is? A few people.
Carl Otis Trumbull.
That's right. Played at LSU, right? Yeah, I remember him. Lonnie, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, man. I heard your voice. I was telling Ervin over there. I said, that sounds like Buddy Davis. But this is a tremendous honor. And like I say, you don't think about individual honors when you playing team sports. But, you know, I had a lot of great teammates over the years. And I could tell you right today, most of my best friends are my team or ex-teammates, guys I played ball with in high school, college, and professional basketball. And so basketball has meant a lot to me. I've learned a lot. And, you know, I tell everybody that my grandmother gave me the foundation for life, but basketball and Coach Hoffey at Grambling really put it all together for me.
Talk about Coach Hoffey.
Oh, man. You know, Coach Hoffey was one of these coaches like Bobby Knight, I guess. That's the type of coach he was. I mean, you know, he was a tough coach. And, you know, I think Buddy asked me this, something to the effect that, did Coach Hoffey ever get mad with me? Something like that. And I just don't remember at all, you know, as tough as he was. But, you know, like we grew up playing basketball, you played as hard as you could all the time you were on the court. And a lot of times, this is all coaches are asking for, you know, just to give your best, you know, give the effort. Bring the energy, as they say now, right? Back in the old days, we didn't say the energy. But this is all they asked for. And, you know, this is the type of player I was, and so I never had any run-ins with Coach Hoffey. You know, he was, I tell you the truth, and Buddy brought this out also, I wasn't really in love with playing basketball until I got to college. Because I played baseball in college, that was my first love. I mean, high school, my first love. And so when I got to Grambling, though, Coach Hoffey, I never forget, 1963, summer of 1963, just out of high school, and Coach Hoffey, the first week we had like orientation and whatever. The next week we were on the basketball court. And back in those days, there wasn't no 20 hours. You know, it might be 20 hours in a day you practice, but not no 20 hours a week. And he had us going. So, you know, that's when I really fell in love with the game. Because, you know, it was just consuming my life at that time. I mean, left high school being an A student and go to college and about to flunk out. You know, because we practice all the time. I mean, we practice 6-7 hours a day, and so I mean we practice like an hour and a half after school from 3:30 to 5, I think it was, and then we had to come back at 7 until. So it was tough, and I know that's what made me a great player, is all that work that we had to put in.
Any type of knee surgeries? Or
Knee surgeries?
from that type of stress?
Well, in the pros. Once I got to the pros, I did, but in college, no injuries. No injuries in college at all. I think maybe I don't know. I didn't miss many games in college at all.
So the transition from being a very great college player going to pros was a little different back then because you had 2 leagues to choose from. Talk about choosing between the NBA, the ABA, the pros and cons of your choices that you had to make, and then validation of it and being in the ABA.
Yeah. Well, the choice really wasn't hard, believe it or not, because back in those days, basketball wasn't like it is today. Basketball is huge. I mean, all sports. It's 24/7. And back in those days, it wasn't like that. So they only had 12 teams in the NBA at that time. And so this was 1967, and I got drafted by the Bullets and the New Orleans Bucks. They were a new team. And so, when I go on this Wikipedia, they have the information about you. And I tried to change what they put in there about me, but they keep changing it back. And so what happened was, when the Bullets drafted me, they drafted me in the 2nd round. So I was like the 13th pick that year in the draft. And a couple teams had said they were going to draft me, but they didn't. And I guess the biggest honor came when I first met Bill Russell. And I'll never forget, he told me, he said, "Man, we should have drafted you." And I said, "Well, I wish I had. I would have had a championship." But the choice wasn't hard at all, really, because I just didn't believe that they would play 2 rookie guards in Baltimore in 1967. And back in those days, it wasn't that many blacks in sports. It was like, I guess the quota was maybe 1 or 2 on a team. And so, believe it or not, people, I tell people that story, they can't fathom that, especially young people. They can't fathom that. And I said, but that was it. And then, so I went to New Orleans. So when New Orleans came along, Babe McCarthy was the coach, who was the coach at Mississippi State. And, they were the first, I think they were the first team to take this was back during segregation, for people giving y'all a history lesson. It was black and white, that's all you saw in this country. And it was, blacks on one side of the track, I should say the other side of the tracks, and whites on the other side of the track. And so a lot of things got lost back in that day, but the thing is, when they drafted me, like I said, I knew they wasn't going to play. I just knew they wasn't going to play 2 of us. Earl Monroe was the number 1 pick. I was the number 2 pick. And I knew they wasn't going to play us. So when Babe McCarthy called, and he said, we drafted you, and we really want you to come play for us. And he started telling me about the new league and all that. And like I said, back in those days, I wasn't thinking about playing pro basketball at all, believe it or not. And so when he called to tell me about the new league and all this, I said, well, that sounds good. And he, told me he's going to get paid. You didn't think about getting paid. I didn't think about playing pro basketball, getting paid. I really didn't. And this was 1967, so that was a long time ago. And so, when he came up, brought me a car, brought me money, contract and all that stuff. Hey, I signed it right there. I was ready to go. And because he told me how much he wanted me, and he wanted to build his team around me and all this stuff. So, like I say, I signed it with no problem. I didn't even call the Bullets to let them know that I was signing with them. I was gone. And so, I know you probably
better end of the deal.
That's right. And I know you were going to ask this question too. Is that my first year in New Orleans? I played with Hall of Fame coach today, Larry Brown, and he was the point guard, and I was the 2 guard. And one of the big things, actually, I'm talking too much, right? I'm long-winded.
Work it out tonight, Saturday night.
Okay, got to be short Saturday night, right? Okay. I already got it mapped out Saturday night. 2.5 minutes. But Larry Brown was a great influence on my life, and even today, I go places and meet guys. For example, Joe Dumas, I think he's from here, right? First time I met him about 3 years ago in Las Vegas for the NBA Summer League. And I was passing by him, going to see someone else. And he called me. And I went over and he introduced himself. I knew he was once I saw him. And he told me, he said, oh man, Larry Brown and I just got through talking about you, this and that. So Larry has been a big fan of mine ever since. So like I said, that first year in New Orleans, I'm playing with all these veteran guys who had been out for a while, and I was the only rookie. And so it was a great experience. Went to the finals that year and lost to the Pittsburgh Pipers, which was that was my first time to the finals. You remember that? So the old guys remember this stuff, man. So, but anyway, that's, like I said, the choice wasn't hard at all to go to the ABA because, I knew I was going to play. And that's the main thing that a basketball player or any sports player want to do is play. You want to, you don't want to sit on the sideline. You want to ride the horse, right? Yeah, you don't want to be the substitute. So that was my motivation for easily selecting New Orleans.
You're just out of college. You go to the ABA. They put this red, white, and blue balloon in your hand and tell you you shoot 3-pointers.
Oh man, I tell you, believe it or not, when you're playing basketball, I don't know how Ervin, you've never played with that ball, have you? You don't see the ball. Believe it or not, you don't see the ball. I mean, it's just like, things you think are obvious to everybody, your focus can be so small that you just don't see it. Didn't see anything because, you're looking at the goal, not the ball. But it was different, no doubt about that. And in the beginning with that ball, though, it was very slick. It was, they hadn't, I guess, roughed it up or whatever, but it was hard to hold. It was hard to grip. But the thing is, not many people were watching us.
Not at Loyola Field. Not at Loyola Field.
That's right. Or in the ABA period.
Some places.
Yeah.
What was the biggest difference in transitioning from the ABA to the NBA? I know a lot of players have talked about that.
Well, for me, it wasn't that big of a transition because, I was playing basketball.
Yeah.
And, we had played against those guys in exhibition season for a couple of years. And, but again, it was sort of like going from Grambling to the Pan American trials in 1968, where, you had the NCAA players, you had the NAIA players, all the school, all the players that were invited. And now you're playing against guys who were supposed to be better players. So the transition wasn't that difficult at all. And like I'm telling my grandson, he plays at a small school in Virginia. And I just explained to him, I said, you have the skills to play against anybody. All you have to do is make sure you have the confidence to play against them because you have the skills. You can do the things that you need to do to play against anybody. And so, I pretty much understood that, especially after college, being at Grambling for 4 years. You learn all the basics and how to do it all.
You're on the clock at the NBA draft, and you can pick any player in the history of the game. Who is your number one guy you pick?
Dang. That's a hard question. That really is.
Ervin would be your top pick.
No, I tell you the truth. That question comes up all the time. Who are the top 5 players? This and that. And I heard Julius Ervin talking about that one day. And he named his top 5, and there was no young players. I couldn't believe it. And he said the guy was asking. He was on a talk show in Vegas. He comes out there a lot, play golf because there's a lot of golf out there. These guys come out to play, and he was just talking about, I guess, the guy that like we watched growing up because he's like probably 5 or 6 years younger than me, and he said I just believe that those guys will find a way to beat anybody. He named Bill Russell. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Oscar Robinson, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, and I think he named Bob Pettit also. Yeah, but that was his thing. So I be honest with you, I say you go pick whoever you want. If we're picking teams, I let you pick first. know, you can pick 5 and then I'll pick 5.
But as a follow-up, even in Louisiana,
Oh yeah.
you could pick a pretty good team.
That's
couldn't
right.
you?
That's right. You know, James Harris, he's a big basketball fan. He's always talking about that. He said he was up in North Carolina and some guys were on him about thought they had the best basketball players in the world. And he said, "Nah, man. See, you got to see these guys from Louisiana. You don't know about these guys from Louisiana." And he started naming those guys. He said, "I mean, how many guys from North Carolina could make this Louisiana team?" You know, he said maybe Jordan could make it, but other than that, you know, these guys have a hard time making this team in Louisiana. Now, all those guys probably look Hall of Fame, right? Yeah, we got a lot of good guys from here, a lot of good athletes. You know, I remember watching Ervin. I used to root for those guys when they were with the Bucks, man, making playoffs. I forget who. Some team I was really rooting for y'all to beat, man. I said, man, Ervin needs to score about 20 points today, man.
I don't know what team that was. Philadelphia, maybe.
Yeah, I don't remember, but you know, like I said, I know all these guys. Big fan, you know, watching sports, you know, watching them growing up, and it was joy watching these guys.
What are you doing today? What are you doing?
I have my own marketing business. Back in the day, I signed up with a company called Mawae, and what has happened over the years, they developed 2 of the top named brands in the world, Artistry Cosmetics and Neutralite Vitamins, which is the #1 vitamin in the world. And I got quite a few customers. I'm enjoying doing that today.
And playing a little golf.
Playing lots of golf. I play a lot of golf, 2-3 times a week, huh?
Are you as good with little balls?
No, I got a long way to go with that one, man. I've come a long way in 2 years, though. I started back playing 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, and I hadn't played since I was in my 20s. That was 40-some years ago. And one of my friends got me to go out and play with him about 3 or 4 years ago now, and had a hole-in-one. And so I said, hey, I must need to start back playing golf. And so 2 years later, I started back playing, so you know, I'm into it now. I promise it won't be this long Saturday night.
James Jimmy Jones, y'all. Let's see. Before we go any further, we've got Hall of Famers we're bringing in this weekend, but we've got a couple who are in the room with us, and they're both basketball centric. Before we shift over to football, and we'll actually transition to football, and you see what I mean in a second. We've got a couple Hall of Famers here. She scored over 40 a game in high school. She played for the United States and was a 3-time All-American at Ouachita Baptist. She played 1 Olympics before there were Olympics. She was on Team USA and was their top player when they won the Pan American Games silver medal in '72. If she'd have been just born a little later, she'd have been on the first USA Olympic team in '76. She's one of the great players. Lynn Gamble. And in the back of the room, as he likes to be, he doesn't like the limelight, but he sure always delivered for Louisiana College back in the days. Mississippi originally, but an icon in Central Louisiana and a Hall of Famer for baseball, for basketball. He was even a football assistant coach. Coach Billy Allgood. Also, you talk about heroic efforts. We've got one here, Senator Gerald Long has joined us, and Senator was very influential in helping acquire the funding that helped complete the museum. We appreciate that, and I understand Miss Rose had a fall today, and that's why you were late, but it's indicative of your love for the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame that you told Rose, you'll be okay, I need to go check on the Hall of Fame. We really appreciate it. We're going to transition, and as I said, it's going to be a gradual transition because our next inductee, and you may not, Brent would know this, and a few others might remember, he may have been a better basketball player in high school than he was a football player. 27 a game. And I'll bet he probably had some thoughts about, hooping it up in college, and I'm sure Nichols at least wanted that to happen. But the allure of Tiger Stadium proved too powerful, and LSU fans are forever grateful. He is still, more than two decades later, almost 25 years later, the career passing leader at LSU. And there's never been a quarterback who's led LSU to more clutch victories, including that Southeastern Conference championship season in 1988. One year I covered LSU, they won the SEC championship. I held that over Herb Benson for years. But I had nothing to do with it. Tommy Hodson had everything to do with it. Tommy Hodson.
Thank y'all. Thanks for having me. Appreciate certainly appreciate all the sports writers voting for me, and it's a great honor. I was just flipping through all the people who are in the Hall of Fame, and like, what am I doing here? You know. So anyway, I'll open it up for questions.
Now we talked about the choice coming out of high school, basketball, football.
Basketball and football. My dad was a basketball player, played a little bit at Nichols, and was a basketball coach. And just growing up, we were a basketball family. I have 4 brothers, 2 sisters. We all kind of played basketball. And we were, the Hodson family on Bayou Lafourche was known for basketball. And my dad said, well, you should be about 6'2", 6'3" when you grow, when you finish growing. So you're going to be a point guard. And he coached me a lot growing up. So I got to shoot a lot when Pops is the coach. Son gets to shoot a lot. And so when you shoot a lot, if you're decent, you score a lot. So I was never shy about shooting, so my average was pretty good growing up. But once I got to Central Lafourche, I met Bob Groh, who was my high school football coach, and he said, I really think you're gonna have a better chance to play football. And I was a football fan growing up too, and I played both sports. When you grow up in a small town, you play them all: run track, basketball, football. And so I really caught the fever when I was a junior in high school and decided to make that transition over to football. My senior year, I made the decision I was going to play football. And when LSU recruited me, growing up in South Louisiana, LSU was king, and LSU football is really king, really big. So I decided to play football for LSU, and I really never looked back. I still enjoy playing basketball when I get a chance. My daughter just finished playing. She was a pretty decent player in 5A basketball. So I enjoy it. It's a great sport, but football really came calling, and glad I made the decision.
So when you got to LSU, did you have any idea that I'm going to start as a freshman?
Well, it worked out good. Stan Humphries was a quarterback there, got recruited there, and he was in between Jeff Wickersham and myself. And when he left and went over to Northeast Louisiana at the time, that left a gap there. So I really didn't think about it. Anybody who knows me knows I'm kind of just whatever. I don't really care about much. I just got to do my deal. And so I wasn't really thinking. I was just thinking, man, I get to do LSU. There's 20,000 people there, a bunch of girls, and man, this is going to be great. And so I go to school there, and like I say, the competition was open. Jeff Wickersham had just graduated, so I redshirted my first year. I actually had surgery on my elbow. Came back in the spring of '86, competed for the job, won the job in the fall, and didn't really solidify that starting spot. I started the first 3 or 4 games, but didn't really solidify that spot until the Kentucky game of my freshman year, and everything kind of took off from there.
So what does this weekend mean to you? You said you couldn't believe you were here. What does this mean?
Well, this is awesome because I'm born and raised here. I played at Central Lafourche High School. Well, first of all, I played at Lockport Junior High Pirates, Central Lafourche High School. I played for LSU, and I played for the New Orleans Saints. So, and I live in Baton Rouge. So I'm Louisiana through and through. I had a chance to live in Massachusetts when I played for the Patriots, and I enjoyed my time there. I love the state, and I like the people there. But I've always said I'm a Southerner, and I belong in Louisiana. And I just enjoy the climate. As hot as it gets, I still like it. I'd rather when it's hot than cold. So for me to be here with all the great players that are on that roster or that lineup is just unbelievable. It's a tremendous honor for me. I'm just you and you and you and you. I'm as average, just plain as you can get. I grew up in a big Catholic family. My mom and dad have been together for 50 years, 50 plus years. I mean, I'm just regular Joe, and I'm here, so it's just kind of shocking to me.
Were you kind of like Jimmy and speaking with your
teammates in New England maybe, hey, we got the best guy, Louisiana, got the best football players? Did y'all ever get into any of those debates?
No, because they knew we had the best guys. Most guys that I played with and had a lot of friends from USC, Penn State, Notre Dame. The South is really dominant in football now, the Southeastern Conference in particular. Wasn't so much then. You had Nebraska, Oklahoma, Miami when I was in school. They kind of dominated the landscape. But everybody always knew that the South had all the best football players.
Tommy, what about like when you were at New England, you had a chance to go up, the Saints went up there and played a game and had to go head-to-head against Bobby Hebert. I mean, it's kind of ironic. Two guys grew up maybe 20 miles, towns are 20 miles apart, got to play in the NFL against one
Yeah,
another.
it's a pretty neat story. You said the Patriots played the Saints, and the Saints played at our place. And I grew up a Saints fan, so I know all of Guido Merkins, Tony Galbraith, Chuck Muncie, Archie Manning. You know, I know all those guys. That's what I grew up with, and I was always a Saints fan. So to play the Saints at New England was kind of special for me. We both started, and they were so much better than we were, and they crushed us that day. But it was neat just to line up against the Saints, and then a few years later, get to play with the Saints. So it was a good time.
Tommy, the atmosphere for college football is obviously still there, just like it has been. Talk about, you play on the road in the SEC, which the SEC 20 years ago is still pretty similar to what it is now. Talk about how difficult it is, the crowd against you, calling plays, changing plays. It's a lot to try to worry about.
It is. You all have probably covered most of Southeastern Conference games, so you've been on the road. You've been in these stadiums, and they're really loud. They're big. They're getting bigger. Florida, I can remember. Just Florida stands out. They had artificial turf back then, so the noise just bounced. It was so hot. And we played at 1 o'clock on. It was an Eastern time game, and I just remember it being so loud, so hot, and. Every state, it never got better. I mean, you go to Georgia, you go to Alabama, played at the Iron Bowl and played in Tuscaloosa, played at Auburn, played all over. They're all loud. You just think, okay, well, Tennessee can't be any louder than Florida or any louder than Alabama, but they're just all, I mean, once you get to a certain point, it's deafening. And we're on, what's that?
None of them stood out anymore. They were all pretty weak.
They were all great. I mean, and Texas A&M wasn't in the conference then, but they are now, and their stadium's really loud too. So there's just great venues to play. They're all unique. They're all a little different, and I'm glad to say I think I've played in all of them, the teams that were in the conference then, except for Vanderbilt. So I guess I wasn't missing a whole lot there, but all the stadiums are great. It's great to play there.
So what about Tiger Stadium Saturday night?
Tiger Stadium's awesome. It's great. They recruit all over now, so you got guys that are coming from all over the country that play there that don't understand the history when they first got there. For me, really didn't grow up a huge fan, but learned the tradition and the history, and all my buddies, and they just loved LSU and all that stuff. So I got to learn all the stories, and it's special because we played at night. ESPN used to carry us, and we used to play at night quite a bit. It's kind of changed now, but just coming there, the fans have been partying all day, and they love the Tigers, And like I say, everybody's a little unique. Tiger Stadium is definitely unique and has some great traditions, and the greatest fans in the country.
So how much as a player, as a college student, did you allow yourself to get caught up in that spirit, that tradition, or do you just try to go and play ball and think about that stuff after you're done?
I was playing golf the other day, and a guy, he joined up with us, and he said, what was it like playing at Tiger Stadium? What does it feel like? I said, you played high school football? He said, yes. I said, it feels the same way. I said, because you got as much pride in what you do and what you're trying to accomplish, and you're trying to play well, all that stuff. we just play in front of more people, but we're still trying to win for the guys that you're sweating with, bleeding with, and I'm sure it's like that for everybody here. You have to block out all that stuff, that exterior stuff. It's awesome that there are 80, 90,000 people after the game that really appreciate what you do that night. That's what makes it extra special to play for LSU. But when the whistle blows, when the horn goes off, all that in between the lines, you're just thinking about, I got to play ball tonight. I got to do what I've prepared to do all week, and just do it well.
So how awesome was it when a couple days later we found out the Earth moved?
Yeah, that's great. I think it's actually longer than a couple of days because the story's gotten legs, and it's they've blown it up quite a bit since then. But it's great. Now, LSU's been playing football for a long time, and the Billy Cannon run, Bert Jones throwing the pass with no time on the clock or whatever, or putting time back on the clock to Brad Davis, just to be part of those stories, to be one of maybe 5 or 6 stories in LSU football history, and you think about how long they've been playing. It's great. We appreciate it. I know Eddie Fuller loves it. We get together and we sign autographs for each other because somebody wants a ball signed or a hat signed or something like that. So it's great. It's great for my kids. They get to go to LSU, and their pop threw a touchdown pass a long time ago. I don't know if he was any good, but he threw this pass and the earth shook, and so it's it's great for them to ask me about it. So it's a good story. Man, I'm glad to have been a part of it.
Talk about that season, though. You guys won the Southeast Conference.
We did win the Southeastern Conference Championship in 1988. It was a tough year. It was a transition. We'd lost some great players: Wendell Davis, Eric Anasek, Nacho Abogamo, a lot of guys on offense. So we had to regroup, and guys like Tony Moss. Tony Moss is from around here, or very close. He was a great player on that team. They moved him over from running back to wide receiver, and he made some awesome plays. And Eddie Fuller's from Kevin Wise country. Yeah, Wampuscat. And he was a big part of that team. So a lot of people ask me about the plays or the games or the championships or whatever. The things that always come to my mind are the teammates and the players that I play with. The great personalities that they all had. And those are my lasting memories. I mean, and we all had to live in Broussard Hall, so we all had to get along, and we learned to get along. And it wasn't segregated, so we learned to all get along, and it was awesome. And we got a lot of great stories and memories from 1988, but more so from Broussard Hall.
So the pro ball experience ends. How do you assess what happened to Tommy Hodson?
Well, when you leave professional sports, and it's probably true for most of the guys and anybody that's ever played, it's what we love. It's kind of what we grow up doing. It's just all we can think about. And then all of a sudden they tell you, well, you're not good enough to play anymore, and you need to move on. And my parents always said, look, you got to have something else to do after you finish playing ball. You got to find something else you like. Now, I will say it takes a while to find it because there's nothing that can match the thrill of sports. Or the agony of defeat, or whatever. There's nothing that matches the highs and the lows. So I bounced around and have a great friend, and my business partner is Jamie Howard. He asked me to, we started an agency, a manufacturer's representative company, and we represent electrical manufacturers. We sell to utility companies, Entergy, Cleco, Dimco. Used to sell to Valley before they sold to AEP. Just companies like that, we sell product to them. And so it's been, and I've been doing that for 9 years and very happy, and been able to raise my family with it and send them to school and all that stuff. So, but it took me a little while to find that. And certainly happy now, and it's been great for the whole ride's been great. So it's always been good.
you and Kevin were very close together at LSU. Talk
A little
about that
older.
relationship.
I'm a little older, so we treated those pups not so good, probably. We were probably a little rough on them, but Kevin was always a great player. I can remember, the coaches, they start looking at your feet. They always talk about your feet, your feet, your feet. Can this guy move? Can he run? Whatever. And that's all. They always said Kevin had great feet, and that's why he was going to be a great pro. And they were right. And this, I'm sure, won't be the last Hall of Fame induction that he goes through, because he'll be in the NFL Hall of Fame one day. I'm pretty sure of it, and or he deserves it. And I was telling him before, I said, if you look at the guys that get in, it's awesome. That list is awesome. If you look at that second tier that don't get in, they're awesome too. They're unbelievable. But I expect him to be in the first tier. So, but he was a great player then. We knew it, and then he proved us all right playing in the NFL.
Yes, I remember, Scooter probably does too. You were hanging out with the offensive line.
Oh yeah, I hung out with Eric Andlesick and Ruff and Rodrigue were my buddies, and like I say, man, we did ball stuff and all that, but Ruffin took care of me. Ruffin's parents took care of me. They were like my second parents, and Ruffin took me everywhere. His dad always had the nice car for him, and he always invited to all the cool parties and all that stuff. So I just hook up with him, and he loved bringing me around too. It was good for him. So we hung out together. Eric and I hung out together. All three of us were Bayou Lafourche guys. So we played against each other since third grade. So we just had a natural bond there.
Tommy Hodson.
Thank you.
Well, we've inducted a lot of football players in the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame through the years. We've inducted, if you look back at the history of it, some tremendous offensive linemen. We've never inducted a Wampus cat. But today, we start that process. And, Kevin knew Natchitoches before he knew he had a permanent home in Natchitoches. And he's got a brother who graduated here from Northwestern. And now he's getting more acquainted with Natchitoches again. And he's always part of the Hall of Fame family now. But he not only, as you know, was a great player at LSU, 16 NFL seasons, 8 Pro Bowls, and was one of the most respected players on the field and clearly off the field too, because he evolved into the leader of the NFL Players Association. And when it finally push came to shove and the work stoppage happened, Kevin Mawae was right there, being sure the players got the best possible treatment, but also trying to bring an end to that. And a couple of things you'll see tomorrow in the museum attest to his role in that process, and are very impressive. Kevin Mawae may be headed to Canton, but right now, it's Natchitoches, and we're very proud to have Kevin Mawae from Leesville and LSU.
Wow, it never gets old, the cheers and the claps and things like that, but it is such a great privilege and an honor to be here. Growing up right down the road, military brat at Fort Polk, and Leesville Wampus Cat. Such an honor. Wampus Cat, those of you from Central Louisiana know who we are. Those of you don't, you're probably glad you never met one of us. But, I don't even know what to say. It's just thank you for those who voted me in, for whoever nominated. I don't even know the process, but I know it is a privilege and honor. Like Tommy said, the number of people that don't get in is almost as impressive, or if not more so impressive, than the ones of those who do get in. And the class to come in with, an LSU classmate of mine with Shaq, we came in at LSU at the same time. And Tommy, and he probably doesn't know this, was a great reason for me going to LSU. I was at the game as a recruit, and I was more excited about Eddie catching the touchdown pass than I was about the throw itself. But that day, like moments after that catch, I knew I was going to become an LSU Tiger, and sealed my fate. And along the way, I met my incredible wife. We've been married 20 years now, and she's been along for every step of the way. My kids have stood the test of time as a professional athlete's child, and they're they made it out okay, or continuing to. My son's 16 and my daughter's 13. She's at summer camp, and just thankful to be here. It's an honor and a privilege, and I've been at the Super Fresh where you worked, and you left the UNO when I got to LSU, but I got double coupons there. So, but it was double coupon day when you live in a Mary student house, and you go to Super Fresh for double coupon days in Baton Rouge, and that's where we went. So there's some ties throughout all of this, and but it is such a great privilege to go in with guys like. I've never watched horse racing before. I went to one race, and just amazing the athletes that you guys are, and even auto racing. I saw a guy hold a 45-pound plate up for 2 hours straight, never moving, just because that's what he does for a living. And I've been to the basketball games. We were in Seattle at the same time. You never gave me tickets, but that's all right. You probably didn't come to our games either. We sucked in Seattle, But anyways, I can go on. Look, I'm not afraid of the microphone and the cameras, but questions. So we'll just go.
When did you know you were a pretty good football player?
I always thought I was a pretty good football player. There's no lack of confidence either. But no, you know, it never really dawned on me where I would go. I had a dream of playing in the NFL. I was 8 years old. I lived in Hanau, Germany. My dad was stationed there, and that's where I started playing football. And I knew the day I stepped foot on the field for the first time that that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. It's a dream, and it was a dream that your parents always say, hey, if you work hard enough, it can happen. I'm a testament to that. A couple years later, I ended up at Fort Polk, Louisiana, played for the Leesville Junior High School, and I got to dress and letter as a freshman for the varsity team. And you know, you always have to wait your time. As a freshman, I traveled with the varsity. I played JV, and I remember distinctly. James Williams was the JV coach, junior varsity coach. We actually played the Natchitoches Central Junior High School here in Natchitoches, and he brought me on the trip for that game. And it was third quarter, and I still hadn't gotten in the game. And and I'm complaining on the sideline. So you bring me all the way up here, and I don't even get to step foot on the field. This is stupid. And basically it was like, if you're going to bring me, put me on the field, because I didn't come here to waste my time. And Coach Williams told me to shut my mouth. I'd be walking back to Leesville. But I knew then that would be the last time I stepped foot on the bus and not step foot on the field. And that was kind of what I wanted. Eventually, I had some teammates go on to play college ball. Eddie Fuller was a senior when I was a freshman, so I started following LSU naturally. Steve Gunn played at USL. Jeff Steele ended up playing at ULM, which was Northeast at the time. So we were a football factory of some sorts, and so I got more interested, and then Raymond Smoot went to LSU and Vincent Fuller the year before I did, and that's when I started getting in the recruiting process. And I liked LSU, I knew about it because of my teammates, but I grew up in Germany watching the Big Ten football, Michigan, Ohio State, and Alabama was always on. So Alabama was a big team. They didn't recruit me, but man, I went to the LSU game and the Earthquake game, and my former teammate caught the touchdown that shook the earth, and it was amazing. And I was like, wow. And so I had the opportunity to come. But I knew probably by the end of my sophomore year that I would have a chance to get to the NFL, to get to the college. And it wasn't until probably my second or third, maybe my third year in college, that it really dawned on me that I had a true chance of getting to the NFL. I had a coach, Kenny Farrow, who has been in the papers, who was probably the first coach that ever said to me that you have what it takes to play at the next level. And that meant the world to me. And who would have known 20-something years later that, I've been inducted to LSU's Hall of Fame, as is Tommy and Shaq, and now this one. I finally got into Leesville's Hall of Fame. They just started it last year, so I was the first guy. And Tommy, thank you for the kind words. Last summer I was able to go watch my teammate Curtis Martin be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and I hold that building in reverence because it's the epitome. And I don't think any athlete ever goes into the game or into the sport playing saying, I'm going to be a Hall of Famer. They just go and play, and they just love the game. And that's all I did. I just loved the game, and the good stuff came with it. And I played hard because I loved it. If I was going to play, I wanted to be the best. And when you play with that attitude, then the other stuff comes behind it. You don't say, I'm going to be the best and then go work. You just go work and don't say anything. Just keep your mouth shut and go work. And people recognize it. And for me, that's kind of what happened.
Kevin, which NFL coach was the most influential for you? Was it Herman, played when the game
The most, I played for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 really good coaches. I came in the league under Tom Flores in Seattle, and I played for Dennis Erickson. Bill Parcells brought me to New York, and I played for Al Groh for 1 year. Herm Edwards for 5, and then Jeff Fisher. But out of all the coaches that I believe was the best coach in the NFL I ever played for was Bill Parcells. It was funny. So that's another thing Tommy and I have in common. Bill went there when Tommy left, and then I got to New York, and I ended up playing for Bill. And Bill was the coach when I got drafted. I said I would never play in New York, and I would never play for that guy. And it's because I saw what he did in New England, and all I saw was like the cussing and the yelling and the screaming. And I had 3 years of that at college. I'm done with that. I don't need that anymore. And but it turned out it was the best decision I ever made to go play for the man. He was the best coach from A to Z that I've ever played for, as far as knowing where to go, who to do it, how to do it, who's going to do it, and how to get that person to do it. And I always tell people, if there's 85 guys on the roster, he knows how to push all 85 different buttons in a different way. And so it was pretty neat to play for him, to see him mastermind that kind of stuff. And if I wanted to know what kind of Xerox toner I need to put in the machine, he was probably the guy who would be able to tell me, because he knew everything about it. And but he's another special coach that I played for. When Parcells tells you that you're one of the best that's ever played for him, that means something. And he shared that with me several years ago. And I'm happy for him getting to go in the Hall of Fame this year. Herm Edwards was awesome. I loved playing for him. The play to win the game speech was awesome. We were 0-6, and the media thought we'd just shut it down. We ended up making the playoffs that year. But by far, Parcells is one who probably, he's the one who took a chance on me. He made me the highest paid center in the history of the league. Everybody thought he was crazy for doing it, and I made good on the promise. I said, if I come here, I will be your next Pro Bowl offensive lineman, and I was.
Who was the toughest defensive lineman, or some of them?
There's 2 guys that stand out for me in my career, 16 years. The 2 toughest guys I ever played against, and I never hesitated, was Junior Seau and John Randall. Junior Seau, I caught him, he was in year 4, 5, 6, the prime of his career when I was a young pup starting out in Seattle. And I recall the game vividly. We were playing against San Diego at home in Seattle, and I couldn't put my hands on him. I could not put my hands on him. It didn't matter what I did, whether I climbed him as a linebacker or whether he blitzed the A-gap or whatever. Every time I went to hit something, I was hitting air. And it was so bad at halftime, this is in '97, that I sat in the locker room at halftime crying. And I was crying. And then Warren Moon's my quarterback, and I'm on the bench begging Warren, please forgive me, I'm so sorry. I said, this guy's just killing me. And I sat in the locker room after the game. Everybody's getting dressed. We lost the game, and my back is to the team, and I'm in the locker room just crying because I felt I played that bad against him. And I remember my old line coach, Howard Mudd, walked outside, and my wife Tracy asked him, so he didn't play very well, did he? And Howard Mudd was like, no. And as it turns out, the film is never as bad as you think it is. It's never as good as you think it is. But as it turns, I played okay against him. But he was the best linebacker I've ever played against. And then John Randall was the guy. Your pass protection was dictated by where John Randall was. It's it's 2-jet, whatever. But you're supposed to slide left. Well, John Randall's to the right. Hey, we're blowing it. We're going to slide right. We're going base because John Randall's in the middle. We're going to slide left because that's where John Randall is. It was John Randall pass protection. And the guy had a motor that wouldn't stop. He just stopped. He just kept going and kept going, and he ran a mouth that went with the actions, and he just got tired. But hands down, those are the 2 guys that I think, in my opinion, were the best that I've ever played against.
As president of the Players Association, what was your greatest accomplishment?
The greatest accomplishment I had as president of the Players Association was the 2011 CBA. A lot of our fans and a lot of the media would recognize those last 6 months of negotiations that took us to the deal in July of 2011. But what they didn't see was the 3 years leading up to it. You know, there were some tumultuous times within the organization, leadership changes with Gene Upshaw passing away. I took over as the president during that time, had a very highly controversial search for a new executive director. And so that started the process and the negotiations, and then trying to unite the players in such a way that when we did get not locked out, that guys wouldn't step over the line or would take backdoor deals to get the deal done. It happened in the past with the NFL and how they split the players in the locker room. It's happened in the NBA and NHL and Major League Baseball, how management will divide the forces. But somehow, some way, we figured out a way in 2010 to pull our players together and bring the biggest names on the rosters on our side and make sure they stayed on our side. And so when we finished that deal in 2011,